Either way, you would want people to know that you were here, and you
Yeah.
would want them to know that you were here for something that was good.
Hi, I'm Arnold and I'm here with Chiko. Welcome to Meet the Owner. If you're here and you are looking to make an impact through business and social media, you're in the right place. And we're going to be getting right into it today with the tragic and well spread news of Prince Philip passing away, and DMX, the rapper, as well, passing away. And if you've seen the thumbnail, there's the newspaper headline which portrays them in a certain light, and we're going to be getting right into it. But before we do that, Chika, how you doing?
Yeah, I'm good. Yeah, how's your week been?
It's been busy, but this week that we're on now, I think it's week the 12th of April today, Monday. So I've got this week off. So I'm going to be using it to just refresh, relax, and actually to make some more content. So that's going to be one of my aims to do this week. How about yourself?
Brilliant. Yeah. Last week was a busy week. This week I'm hoping it's a bit more calmer. My wife took the day off today, so I was like, okay, I'm having a lie-in, wake up a bit later than normal. But yeah, it's good. I'm really excited. Yeah, we plan loads of content this week. So yeah, I'm trying to reserve the mornings as content mornings sort of thing. So yeah, no, it should be good. And I do, today's topic as well sounds saying it brings a lot of thought, I guess, looking at those two different iconic people that passed away, and what it means to the world and what the world has to say. I guess it's quite interesting.
And the thing is, it's on one page their lives have been summarized. So for Prince Philip, his 99 years of existence on this earth has been summarized as him being a beloved royal. And then you look at DMX, who is, is 50 years. Interestingly enough, about half the lifespan, and his 50 years have been summarized as a rapper who was brilliant but troubled. And there's a very stark contrast there in how they've been portrayed. I wonder if that's how they would have wanted themselves to be portrayed if they were going to be portrayed on a newspaper headline. How would they have wanted their lives to be put across? So yeah, it's going to be interesting to look into that. What were your thoughts when you saw the headline?
It's quite interesting. It's funny how the world works and the media works and how people think and that sort of thing. And I guess at the end of the day, when it's all said and done, for every one of us, I guess when we're gone, someone's going to be saying something about us, and it's trying to think, what are people going to say? Because obviously you have to think to yourself, what would I want people to say? Do I want them to obviously there's always the good and the bad, because even some of the best people in the world, if you look at the media today, they always go through a phase where everyone demonizes them and they're this horrible person and they've done this and they've done that. It's because they're in media's eyes, and media obviously likes to put out the worst of people as well, because people for whatever reason enjoy that content. But yeah, it's interesting looking at these two different people, and something that you said did they want to be portrayed like that? And I guess while we're still here, I guess it's important that we start now working on how do I want to be portrayed, when I'm gone. What do I want people to say, when I'm gone? What's going to be my legacy, I guess, whether it's just me as a person or in relation to business, because a lot of us use our businesses as a way to almost fulfill our purpose in life, and therefore, and that's what we're putting out into the world. We're saying, this is me, I'm this kind of person, and therefore I have this kind of business or so yeah, no, it's quite interesting.
Yeah. and we're living in a time where the media is not just limited to people who run TV stations, people who run news channels, or people who run newspapers. And that's the amazing thing about living in 2021. The fact that anybody and everyone can put out content, can put out videos, and that can actually show who you truly are. So no matter what anybody else says, if we can find your content, we get to know you for who you really are. And then it now leads on to the thing of, that's why it's important that when we put out content, that it reflects who we are and that we're not pretending to be somebody else. Because if we pretend to be somebody else and we do well off of that, when we do pass away, people are going to remember the fake version of us, and people won't really know who we truly were. And that would be a sad reality if people never had the true accurate picture of who you are, and if they fell in love with who you pretended to be.
Yeah, exactly. No, that's a huge point, you know, because at the end of the day, especially for the kind of people I think that we're trying to reach, that you know, that's the audience for our podcast, that kind of thing, is people who really want to make an impact. And a lot of the times when you're trying to make an impact, you know, your name will go out there, you will do things because you are trying to make an impact. You will be known, not just for people to know your name, but for people to actually do the thing, or for people to take the action that you'd want them to take for good. And when I was thinking about it as well, just when we were talking before, I was thinking about, you know, when you're dead and gone, it's either there's going to be good that's said about you, there's going to be bad that's said about you, or there's going to be nothing that's said about you at all.
Yeah.
So you have to consider all possibilities. And really, like, for a person that really wants to make an impact, you know, even if, you know, it's not all about fame and your name getting known and whatever, but at the very least, we should say, okay, this person was here and they made an impact, you know, they did something, you know, lives were changed because they were here. You know, there's something out there. That's why I said, either way, you would want people to know that you were here, and you would want them to know that you were here for something that was good. And it's important early on that you start shaping that. So you start trying to live an intentional life, such that everything that you're doing, every step that you're taking, it's intentional for the legacy that you're going to leave behind. Because also remember that, you know, when you're dead and gone, your children have to carry your name, your grandchildren are going to have to carry your name. And, you know, are their lives going to be easier because they have your name, or are their lives going to be more difficult, or are they going to be more ridiculed because they had your name?
Yeah. And you know, it's so important because, you know, even people with the best intentions may not truly capture what you wanted people to receive about your life. I mean, whenever you see news reports of, let's say, missing people or people that have passed away, sometimes all you see of that person is a mugshot. You know, their worst picture is put on the TV screen, and you know, people are saying rest in peace, and that's the only picture that people that never knew you get to see of you. But imagine if people who didn't know you actually then went onto content that you made, and then they get that true reflection of who you were. Whether you're a mother, whether you're a father, a brother, a sister, people now get to really know you for who you truly were. And, you know, we've got the opportunity to take the storytelling of our own lives into our own hands. We don't need to leave it to somebody else. And even, you know, in using social media for business, the fact that you can have your personality infused into the content, I still think that's valuable, because people are sometimes debating, should I be my quirky self? Should I, you know, be my dry jokes self? You know, should I show those sides to myself? And for me, I would say yes, because number one, the people who gravitate to you are going to be your tribe, who really support you and invest in your business, and really champion you, even to the point that when you die, if anybody was ever to say things that weren't accurate about yourself, your tribe would be able to defend your name and really put across who you were. So I think there's something to be said about being your authentic self whenever you put out content, even if the content is for your business or something that you're pursuing.
Yeah, exactly. Because one thing that I read a while ago, I was listening to something, and it was about Martin Luther King. And one thing that I found very, very shocking was that apparently in his day, he was not actually as loved as he is now. Okay. Apparently in his actual day, most of the, population, including some Black people, actually hated him. And it's so funny how it's when people actually, it's after he died, when people actually started going into his speeches, when people actually started to look, what did this guy actually do? And now he's one of the most loved people in the world, in history. Meanwhile, when he was still alive, a lot of people hated him for all that he did and all that he stood for and all of that kind of thing. But it's shocking that now when people have gone and delved into the work that he did, they're like, wait a minute, this guy was actually a hero, for humanity, for the right cause. So it's that kind of thing where, like you're saying, Arnold, people might not always understand. People might not always, because a lot of the people that really do make an impact, a lot of the time they're ahead of their time. That they're doing things that people don't understand because they're always thinking in the future. They're always thinking ahead, and people may not always understand that. And even just going back to your main point, which was that, you're not here to serve absolutely everyone. Do you know what I mean? There's always going to be your small group of people, your people that, regardless of how not funny you are or whatever, that will really benefit from what you have to say, that will really appreciate your work. And I guess it's more and more just trying to find those people. And sometimes you have to do a bit of trial and error. You have to fail a few times, and before you actually can get to the people who, most benefit from your content and who you are.
Yeah, no, that's completely true. I mean, I guess part of the reason why this headline really struck out to me is because I've got experiences of these two men. So, for example, for Prince Philip, I actually met him at St. James Palace in London because I did the Duke of Edinburgh bronze, silver, and gold. So the reward at the end of that was you got to take a trip to the palace, and you got to meet him. So I went with my mum, and we got to meet Prince Philip. So I got to actually shake his hand and say a few words. But for me, I know him as somebody who put on this award, the Duke of Edinburgh's award, which was to help youth, for us to expand our horizons, get new experiences, and it was to develop the youth. So his life impacted me in that way. So I see him beyond what this tabloid says, and because I know some of the things that he was involved in. And then you look at DMX, the rapper, the fact that when I first came to the country, my older brother was heavily into his music. So I got to hear a lot of the songs that DMX made, and in his songs, in his content, you get to find out about the things that he experienced, the troubled past that he did have, but at the same time, how he was a man of faith and he was battling with wanting to do better, but having grown up in a troubled home and having had a troubled past, which he didn't enjoy it, he didn't celebrate that, he wanted to do better. And he was somebody who was always striving to do better. So you could see that good in him, that hunger to want to do better. And that was an inspiring thing that I was able to take from his life. So, yes, there was a troubled segment of his life, but he was actually inspiring people to do better. So it's interesting that the people that actually had experiences of these two men, they can now start to unveil the layers to their lives, and it's more than what we see. with the headlines. And yeah, it brings us to the point of how do we want to be remembered? I mean, for you, Chiko, you know, what would you want the tabloids to say, or what would you want people who look through your content to see?
Yeah, and that's a huge question. It's funny because I always ask people when I'm interviewing other people, I always ask them, one of the final questions I always ask them is, what impact do you want to make? I guess that's the question really you're asking me, which is, you know, what do you want people to have seen out of your life? And I think for me, the main thing is I want people to have said that this person actually made a difference in people's lives. And I guess we all want to make a difference in people's lives. But for me, it's this person inspired people to do more with their lives, you know, to think of themselves much more than they think of themselves. You know, it inspired people to try for more, you know, to do more, and just to be more in life. I think to kind of almost lay aside all of the things that have defined them their whole lives, of their limitations of what they could do and what they couldn't do, and for them to just, you know, go ahead in life and not have anything holding them back, and really live out their purpose in the best of their abilities in whatever they were, like whether they were a cleaner that, you know, he helped them become the best cleaner they could ever be, whether they were, you know, a director of a company that he helped them to become the best director of a company they could ever be. So I guess,
if the headline read Chiko dies at whatever age, Chiko the marketer dies at whatever age, you know, do you think that would be a true reflection of what you'd have wanted to leave behind? The fact that, you know, you were a marketer?
No, I don't think that's what I would want in my legacy, as the fact that I think, no, definitely not. And I think marketing, I think, is something that I do. I think marketing it's a method, you know, in me trying to help people become. And I think that what I just said there is probably what I'd want. I think that the person who helped people live out their purpose, he helped them become who, you know, they were destined to be, because I believe, you know, we were all created with a purpose, for a purpose. So yeah,
when we look at the headline, for Prince Philip, he's being portrayed as the royal, so that's what he did, and being a prince, that's what he did. And for DMX, you know, the biggest part is the rapper. You know, so it, you know, a troubled musician. So people really hone in and, you know, zoom in on what you did. And do you think that's just human nature? We want to remember people by what they did?
Yeah, I think it partly is, because I think everyone wants to be identified with something, you know. It's always like, and I think that's partly what's wrong with the world, you know. It's more about what we do rather than what we become. We give up what we become for what we just do. Do you know what I mean? So what they did was, you know, he was a prince, you know, and he was a rapper. That's what they did. But that was almost like an outflow of who they were. So the fact that they were a rapper and all of these different things. So yeah, and I think obviously people need words, you know, to remember you by. They need words to put in a sentence. But when it comes down
to even there, so do you think that they would have preferred if it said beloved was the big, bold, and then the prince was the smaller part, and then well, for DMX, I guess the positive part is brilliant. So he put brilliant in the big, and then everything else in small. I just find that interesting.
Yeah,
that, you had the option to make something big and bold, and you put the prince and the rapper is big and bold, but beloved, much smaller. Brilliant was much smaller.
Because really, like, obviously, you know, when you describe something, actually, because for me, what the most important thing is, like, you know, when you said you met Prince Philip, and you know how you talked about when your brother was into the music, into DMX's music. One of the things that you talked about was, I think you kind of described your interactions with these two people.
Yeah.
And was it Maya Angelou that said about how people are not going to remember what you said, but people are always going to remember how you made them feel.
Exactly.
Yes, for me, what I really saw when you described those two things is how they made you feel. I guess Prince Philip, it was that kind of thing. I got to meet him. I got to shake his hand. I'm sure in that moment, because for me in my head, what was going on is that how must you have felt in that moment? I'm sure you felt hope and, I can actually do something with my life.
I think it was more having my mum there. And it's almost like, mum, look where we are. And having your mum proud of what's happening.
Exactly. So even like same thing with DMX, it was like as he's rapping there, you described that when he was rapping, he was talking about the fact that he's had all of these battles, but he's still trying and he's striving. And for me, again, it's always about how have you made people feel? So as people are listening to that, they're probably people who, we're not perfect. We all have, problems and things that we struggle with. So I'm sure while people are listening to him rap, they're thinking, yes, I have failures, but I'm striving as well. Just like he's striving, I'm striving. And because he's saying it, there's hope for me. So I think, so for me, I think that the Maya Angelou thing has always stuck with me, even in marketing. For me, it's more and more, I'm kind of like, okay, how do I want this person to feel when they read this? How do I want them to feel when they come into contact with this person's product or service or whatever? So, so I don't know, I'm terrible at trying to, condense things into...
So it seems like what we're coming down to is the important thing in whatever you're doing within business, social media, content that you're creating, is you need to be thinking, how do I want people to feel when they experience what I'm putting out? When I provide a service to people, how do I want them to feel? If I'm being, I'm a cosmetic dentist, it's not so much about how straight and how white I make their teeth. It's about, how do I make them feel? Do they now become more confident to smile in photos, in their wedding photos, to now enjoy social occasions because they're not self-conscious about their smile and their teeth? That's about how they feel now. So it makes me more intentional about getting people to experience positive experiences that will remain with them for life, rather than just my technical ability and skill level to produce a result. Yeah, exactly. And I guess, it is something incredibly important, how people feel. And because even with these two people like Prince Philip and DMX, it's that kind of thing where even though DMX had his issues, you could see that he impacted the world. The fact that they're referring to him as a brilliant rapper, and before you were talking about how, people are now going back into his music and people are going back to the recordings of him where, he's the fact that he was actually a man of faith. Yes, he had his struggles, but he was a man of faith. And, I guess these people, as much as, yes, his death was very sad, but he still gave people hope. And I guess that's what we all want to do. You want to give people hope. You want to make people feel like, yes, they can do things, they can achieve things, they can, because like you were saying, for you as a dentist, that's what you do for people. Even as a marketer, a lot of the time I'm trying to think of myself as, I'm trying to think differently as a marketer, in the sense that even the people that I'm working with, I'm trying to make them realize that they can be, a lot further than they think they can be. That I'm trying to make them realize that the services and the products that they have to offer, that they actually do change people's lives. Because one of the things that I always try and do when I start working with a client is we try and establish what the real problem is that they're trying to solve. So like, let's say with dentists, a lot of the times what you find is that when you really drill down, you're not just straightening people's teeth. You're giving them confidence.
confidence to go out into the world, and be all they can be. So for me, I'm trying to kind of empower these dentists and whoever else I'm working with in marketing, saying to them, you are making a difference. Let's really put it out there, be free to be you and keep making the difference that you're making, I guess. So
yeah. That's good stuff. So, I mean, just summarizing on what we've covered is the fact that you don't need to leave it to other people to narrate or to tell your story. You've got the once in a lifetime opportunity in 2021 to be putting out there through your content, through your social media, the real story about you, how you want people to remember you. So I said that's probably the first thing. Be your authentic self when you present yourself on social media. And the second thing it's about how you're making people feel, not about what you do. And if you focus on how you're making people feel, that will inevitably lead to you making an impact on people, on the world, and your life having served a purpose. I mean, anything would add to that in terms of what we've covered?
Yeah, you pretty much covered it there. And again, I love the idea that you talk about telling your story. You wanna. I was listening to someone again recently that was talking about telling your story and how to tell your story. And they were just talking about tell your story well. Let people see who you actually were. So even in your business, I feel like businesses and the way people craft businesses is part of all of it is telling your story, saying, this is where I've been, this is where I'm going, you could get there too, or whichever one that you do. But yeah, you covered it there quite well, and that's probably a great place to end.
Yeah.
So thank you everyone for listening. We hope that you could jump on the next one again. So please do remember to subscribe, follow us we're on Instagram, me and Arnold are on LinkedIn as well. We've got our YouTube channel, we've got the podcast. So thank you for listening. Do please remember to subscribe, and we'll see you on the next one.
See you guys in the next one.